Good morning. This is Joe from Citrus County Porch Life, coming to you from Homosassa, Florida, in Citrus County, just below the Big Bend. It is post Debbie with a nice tailwind from the hurricane, and it is beautiful. Nice sunny day. I have a video up there of 3 visitors when I was making my previous video who flew by, and they're still here. They are the most patient birds looking for a fish. They just stand there. They don't move, and then boom, they get it and they eat it. This is a word for the day, and the word for the day today is made a list. This quote is from the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. We made a list of all persons we had harmed. And these are the words from the daily reflection. When I approached the 8th step, I wondered how I could list all the people, things that I had done to other people, since there were so many people. And some of them weren't alive anymore. Some of the hurts I inflicted weren't bad, but they really bothered me. The main thing to see in this step was to become willing to do whatever I had to do to make these amends to the best of my ability at that particular time. When there is a will, there's a way. So if I want to feel better, I need to unload the guilt feelings I have. A peaceful mind has no room for feelings of guilt. With the help of my higher power, I am honest with myself. I can cleanse my mind of these feelings. Now we're getting to the heart of the 12 steps, is making amends and setting ourselves free by making amends. I started drinking at age 13. For the first time, I voluntarily took a drink. Boone's Farm apple wine. Some of you might know that. Really rot gut stuff. And because I was 13, we couldn't buy any liquor, but we waited outside a liquor store, and some guy bought us a bottle, and right behind the liquor store was a dump, and we figured that was a good place to go and drink because no adults would ever come there and we wouldn't get in trouble. And I liked it. I liked that feeling of being drunk. But being a kid, I didn't have much money, and the prospects of getting any weren't too great. So it was very intermittent drinking. As I got older and I got into my teens, 15, 16, I could drink more. When I went to college at 17, I went to the University of Rhode Island, and at that time, the Vietnam War was on. I'm talking about 1967. And a lot of people were there just for student deferments. The government allowed us student deferment to us. And I learned how to drink. I had a roommate whose name was also Joe. And he introduced me to Southern Comfort. And wow, did that taste good, and it made me feel good. So I started drinking more heavily, carrying a flask around. I'd feel bad on Monday morning with the hangover, and I'd say, well, I'm not going to drink this week. But by Thursday, I was carrying the flask, getting ready for Friday. And there were a lot of drugs, but the drugs didn't interest me as much as the liquor did. The drugs were free. People, acid, marijuana. You could go to jail. You could ruin your whole career then, and now they want to sell it in stores in Florida. But that's when my drinking really picked up. I was a STEM student, science, technology, mathematics, and I got a job the day I graduated from school. It was a good job. It was operations manager for a large regional bank, and I drank there all the time. I worked third shift, and I had days free to drink as long as I made it home by 5 and slept a little bit. I don't really think I was sober much in the 1970s. Just with the schedule I had. Towards the end of the 80s, I knew that I couldn't go on. That's all. I mean, I had started to isolate myself. I was still working. I never had any jackpots. I never drove when I was drunk. And I just knew that, I had to end at one point. And it did. I stopped on March 4th, 1991. Exactly 1 month before my 41st birthday. And it was a strategic pick that I wanted to have 1 month sober so I wouldn't spend another birthday drunk out of my mind, having a bad hangover. And it was only, for the first year, I didn't even consider doing, making a list of all persons I had harmed. My thinking was, I hadn't really harmed anyone. My last years of drinking were in isolation. I didn't care what anyone did. It didn't bother me as long as they let me drink. And that was my feeling. But as you get into AA, you know that even isolating yourself, you're harming people. I would make plans to be with my family and cancel them. Particularly with my father, who I really, really love to this day. He's passed on, but we did so many great things. We would walk empty trestles and just talk about things. And he loved the old time serials from the 30s when he was a kid. When he went to the movie houses, they'd have the serials to get the kids in the next week. And I'd look for some for him, and he'd look for some for me, and we'd get together and we would watch them. And he had a lot of boys. He had eight boys. And we all drank to a certain degree, and we came over his house looking for beer, and he started buying the cheapest beer that he could find, and he'd go and buy it when there was no sales tax to save money. Well, anyway, I would make appointments with him and then not show up because I was drunk, and I'd think of something. He knew what I was doing, and which made me even feel more guilty. So eventually my sponsor said to me, you've got to do this. You've got to make a list of all people you have harmed. And, for a 28-year career of drinking, it was daunting. And then when you finally get sober, some of the people you hurt were 28 years ago, and as it mentions in the reading, a lot of them dead. And they also say you have to admit to another human being the exact nature. So I went and saw a priest in England who was an alcoholic, and his ministry was to alcoholics. I flew into London, took a train out to Western England and out to the Scilly Isles, Scilly, I think. And I unloaded on him. And to those people who were alive, my parents, especially my mother, and my dad, I was sober 8 years when my dad died, and we had a wonderful 8 years. I was at his house almost every day, helping him, helping his wife. To my brothers and sisters, I apologized. I had a birthday party, and I apologized to all my friends there. I let them know what was going on. And so that's how I dealt with it. Many of my more egregious things that I did to people, I was never violent, but I had a nasty tongue, and it's spoken of in the literature that you knew you were right and you had this sort of righteous indignation, and you were going to lay it out on them and make them feel like a piece of crap because they were wrong and you were right. And I apologize for that too. So that's how I handled it. And on an ongoing basis, I don't let these things fester now. I do a nightly examination of conscience. And when I have something that I should apologize for, I do it right away. It's like I learned very quickly in AA. I used to make these to-do lists, and I would always put the hottest thing down the bottom, and somehow I never got to. I'd do 5 or 6 of the easiest things and never touch the thing at the bottom. So I switched it around. I do the hardest, and you know something, when you get the worst things out of the way, the things at the bottom become easier, and you get the whole list done. So that's what I tried to do today. I try to control my anger, especially when I think I'm right. I went to a doctor's office. It would be Monday, and there was only one person helping the doctor, so she's running in from patient to patient. He's got a busy endocrinologist business, and I said, "Oh boy, this is going to be disastrous," because she's not really listening to anything I'm saying. But I was kind. And then when I went to pick up my medications, they were all wrong. Everything that she wrote down was wrong. Now, I could have, laid into her and said, you're supposed to get these stuff right. I'm a patient. But I didn't. I called and I said, I know you were very busy. I went to the pharmacy and there's a little mix-up on some of the orders. They said they're going to call you. Could you straighten it out? And we had a good conversation. Now, had I been drinking, I probably would have been arrested for laying into this lady. And so I'm glad I have my sobriety, because I act better. Some people say you should work on all your problems at once. Alcoholism was my biggest problem. When I have that under control with AA, and I'm not drinking, and I haven't been for 33 and a half years, I can work on all my other problems. They become manageable. It's like being in AA and learning everything I can from AA is at the top of my to-do list. And everything else on that list, like being kind to people, not flaring up in anger, becomes easier. So I make amends where I can. I find I have less amends to make now because I treat people in a better manner. And when something comes along that I didn't cause and it's all messed up, just being nice to people, they want to help you and they straighten it out, and there's no animus or hatred. So that's the way I've dealt with things. And I don't know, it just seems natural now when I do it like that, rather than go crazy. So that's the word for today, August 8th. A beautiful post-Debbie sunny day with birds in the retention pond, fishing. Boy, do they have the patience of God. They're like my father when he went fishing. The only one who could go with them was my brother Brian, my youngest brother, who died of alcoholism, and be there all day. And when I had a gigantic yard, he would weed my yard. He loved it. And he'd go sit under a tree, read his Western books. And I'd get up, because I worked third shift, I'd get up and he'd be out there. And I was just coming out to read. Oh, I got it done. Don't worry about it. And yeah, I'm drifting. So have a good day. See you tomorrow.